The 36 volumes that Louisa wrote are really a roadmap for a soul's journey with Jesus to become fully invested in the divine will. Jesus gave Louisa a lot of practical advice. He made her write everything because he knew we would need to benefit from the advice he gave Louisa. The journey of every soul will be unique, but there will be many common experiences. There can be no doubt. The cross is something we will all share in common. Crosses come in all shapes and sizes. Jesus and Louisa discussed the cross hundreds and hundreds of times so that we would have the right perspective when we experience our crosses. First, crosses are good. Crosses are powerful. If you join your cross to Jesus' cross with your gift of the divine will, God takes it a step further into the incredible. The Father will now look upon your offering with Jesus as if all souls, past, present, and future, had made this offering to God themselves. The offering is not just coming from you, it is multiplied over all souls with the power of the divine will. Imagine the immense good if everyone in the world stopped at this moment, dropped to their knees, and offered the Father your suffering joined with the cross for the reparation of the sins of all souls, past, present, and future. This is exactly what happens and more when your crosses are suffered in the divine will. Knowing the value of suffering in the divine will, in the plan for redemption, it is no wonder that Jesus, when he first saw his cross, embraced it and exclaimed, "O beloved cross!" It is not that he loved having nails pounded into his hands and feet, but he loved his cross because he knew the good that would result from the cross by opening heaven for souls. The key is not to focus on your cross, but to focus on the good that will come from offering your suffering for the reparation of sins. It may take some time before we stop complaining about our daily crosses and exclaim, "Oh, beloved cross!" But this is part of the transformation God will do in us if we keep doing our acts and rounds. Love your cross. Watered, the tree of the cross is watered by obedience, and the branches are divine patience, divine love, divine joy, divine peace, and the dead leaves that fall out are greed, worry, and anger. There is another reason why it is important to love your crosses. Jesus told Louisa that the only way for the divinity to be grafted into our humanity is to love our crosses. He didn't say one of the ways, he said the only way. If the divinity is grafted into your humanity, you are on the road to the order, place, and purpose for which you were created, where Jesus can continue his life on earth in you. So love your crosses. Once the graft takes place, it needs to grow. Jesus told Louisa that obedience is what allows the divine virtues to grow in a soul. This would include obedience to superiors, parents, teachers, and the church. This is obedience to God's will. You cannot live in the divine will unless you are doing God's will. Jesus told Louisa, true sanctity is in doing the divine will and living in the divine volition. If you know God wants you to stop watching so much television, you cannot ignore this and ask Jesus to come watch television in me. You must be doing God's will with the gift of his divine will. Occasionally, even Louisa would have trouble with obedience. Being naughty, I shrugged my shoulders and said, "It's difficult for me to do it right. Anyway, who will remember everything?" And Jesus, smiling, added, "And if after your death I will give you a pen of fire in your hand in purgatory, what will you say?" Jesus made it very clear to Louisa, obedience to God's will is absolutely necessary. God discloses his will to us in different ways, through signs, through superiors, through answered prayers. But most of the time, he whispers to us. If you have a superior, what the superior tells you to do is the will of God for you. But if you don't have a superior, you have to listen for God's voice. This takes practice and a great trust in God's love. After all, it only makes sense that God wants to converse with those he loves. But even Louisa would many times question if God really wanted her to be lying in bed, writing the volumes, living the life she was living. Once, when she experienced these doubts, a saint appeared to her and told her she was doing God's will in the state she was living if she would be willing to do something else, if she had a clear sign from God to do so. This advice from the saint may be helpful to you. You can rest easy that whatever you are doing now is what God wants you to do. If you can truthfully say you would willingly do something different, if God gave you a clear sign to do so. Through obedience, God will teach you to do His will with the gift of the divine will, so that the divine virtues will grow in you. As Jesus explained to Louisa, He will empty you of the human so He can fill you with the all. This is a roadmap to living in the divine will. Gift of divine will, free. Do God's will with gift and watch it multiply over all souls. God's will. The human will. God's will on the right, human will on the left. And when you go with the human will, you leave the gift of the divine will outside.